Hi, my name's Jon Guest, and this is going to be a short video to answer question 3 on the Economics of Healthcare article in volume 35, number 2, which is November 2017. Okay, so the question, which is question 3 on this article, is draw a demand and supply diagram to illustrate the market for non-urgent healthcare in the UK. Using this diagram, try and explain why in March 2017 nearly 130,000 people were waiting for an operation after being referred to a consultant. Now obviously if 130,000 people are waiting, that suggests there's a queue, which would suggest that the price in the market is below its market clearing level. So let's do a little simple diagram to try and illustrate this. So we've got the quantity on the horizontal axis, which I've just called the number of operations or the number of non-emergency operations, and we've got price on the vertical axis. So I've just drawn a normal downward sloping demand curve for health. I'm assuming as the price falls, the demand for health would increase, all other things equal. As the price increases, the demand for health would fall, all other things equal. The supply curve, or the short-run supply curve, which I've called S1, is a little bit unusual because it's actually, I've drawn it as a vertical line because I'm assuming that the only supplier of healthcare is the government or the state in this case. So obviously in reality, in the real world health market, there's a private sector health market, but we're just going to assume in this video that it is just the state providing the healthcare. And the state doesn't respond to prices as a traditional supply curve would for profit maximising private organisations. The amount of money the government spends on healthcare will be a political decision, and we'll assume for the sake of the analysis of this diagram that the amount the government's decided to invest in healthcare, in particular non-urgent healthcare, is QS1. So it doesn't matter what the price is, the supply remains the same. That's just the amount the government commits to spending in this area. We can see in the diagram, the demand and supply diagram, that if there was a market, demand would equal supply at point A, and the price for non-urgent operations would clear at PNU, and there would be no queues or no shortages. But obviously with healthcare we don't directly pay a price or a monetary price, so I'm just going to assume that the price is 0 here, because you don't normally have to pay for non-urgent healthcare through the NHS. You might have to pay in terms of time and hassle sometimes, but we'll assume those non-monetary costs, any extra non-monetary costs, are 0 as well. So at a price of 0, the demand for healthcare, the supply will stay the same at QS1. The demand for healthcare is obviously going to be higher than it would be at the price PNU because it's free, and we're going to assume that the demand for healthcare is QD. And we can see in the diagram that there's this shortage. The number of people who want to have these non-emergent operations is far greater than the number that is being supplied through the state. And we can think of this difference, if we go back to the question, as the 130,000 people who are waiting for an operation after being referred by a consultant. Now, obviously the government's got some choices. It could introduce elements of the market, or it could decide to spend more on healthcare. And I've just shown in the diagram, if it decided to spend more on healthcare, the short-run supply curve would shift to the right to S2. The supply of healthcare, the quantity supplied of healthcare would increase to QS2, and obviously the number of operations, or the number of people waiting for non-urgent operations, would fall. Obviously the government could have rapid increases in healthcare. The supply curve would shift further to the right to try and reduce the number of people waiting, but obviously there's the opportunity cost of how that money could have been spent in other areas such as education and transport, or it could have been used for tax cuts, or a whole host of other reasons. Obviously, another problem that in particular the market for healthcare is experiencing is quite rapid increases in demand every year, so this demand curve just keeps on shifting to the right. Good. Well, I hope you find that short video useful. As I said, this is for the question 3 on the economics of healthcare in volume 35, number 2, 2017. And thank you for listening.